Darren stood in the shuttle bay, wearing a gray flight suit and holding his helmet under one arm. The engines behind him were silent now, cooled after a long trip from Earth to the edge of the Grelin system, a human colony surrounded by alien territory. He had been sent here as a peacekeeper. Not a soldier, not a spy. Just a man with skills in flying and fixing things, trusted to help the colony build good relations with the alien race called the Vorn. His job was simple: deliver a power relay, assist in repair work, and show goodwill. He missed his home already, especially Myra, his wife. Before he left, she hugged him tightly, kissed his cheek, and told him to come back safe. He had no idea how long safe would remain true. The colony looked quiet. Gray buildings stretched across the dusty ground, surrounded by high fences. The Vorn were tall, thin beings with dark skin like polished stone. They didn't smile. They didn't speak unless spoken to. Their sharp eyes followed Darren wherever he went. Darren tried to stay calm. He focused on his work, connecting the Earth-built power relay to the colony's grid, syncing the frequency, checking energy flow. He worked with 2 Vorn engineers who rarely spoke. Still, everything seemed fine. But on the 3rd day, everything changed. An explosion rocked the east side of the colony during the night. Sirens blared. Darren jumped from his bunk and ran outside, heart pounding. Smoke rose into the sky, and red lights flashed across the facility. He heard voices shouting in Vorn language, then saw armed guards rushing toward him. One pointed a long rifle at him. Another grabbed his arms and forced him to the ground. "What's going on?" Darren shouted. "I didn't do anything." But the Vorn didn't answer. They dragged him through the dust to a holding cell. The room was small and cold, with silver walls and no windows. Hours passed. No one came to explain. No food, no water. Finally, a voice echoed from the corner speaker. "You have been found responsible for sabotage," the voice said. "The evidence points to your device." Darren stood up, shocked. "What? That's not true. I installed everything by the book. There's no way it exploded." But the voice continued calmly. "You will be sent to Station R9 for confinement until investigation completes." "No, wait." Darren banged on the door. "This is a mistake. Call Earth Command." "I'm not a criminal." No one answered. The prison ship came the next morning. The Vorn guards placed heavy cuffs on Darren's wrists. A black hood covered his head. When they removed it, he was inside a dark cell with only a metal bed and a flickering blue light above. Time moved slowly after that. Darren didn't know how many days passed. Maybe weeks, maybe more. Food came once a day, dry cubes and water. He was allowed outside the cell for only 10 minutes to stretch, under guard. He thought about Myra every night. He had promised to return in 3 months. He wondered if she got his last message. Maybe she was worried. Maybe she thought he was dead. He tried not to think too much. He needed to stay strong. He told himself, "I will prove I'm innocent. I will go back home. I will fix this." But a part of him began to worry. What if they don't believe me? What if I never leave this place? Meanwhile, on Earth, Myra sat at the small table in their kitchen, holding her coffee cup with both hands. She stared at the message screen on the wall. No new messages. 3 months had passed. No word from Darren. No updates from the colony. Earth Command had sent only one report: communications down. Contact delayed. She sighed. Leo, an old friend of Darren's, visited her often these days. He lived nearby and worked in the city's transport hub. He brought groceries sometimes, fixed the light in the hallway, listened when she spoke about the silence from space. "You don't have to go through this alone," he told her one evening. "It's okay to be afraid." She looked down at the floor, unsure what to say. Back in space, Darren sat in his cell, rubbing the metal cuffs around his wrists. He had begun watching the guards, learning their patterns. He noticed a small crack near the vent, maybe a loose bolt. He had a plan now. He just needed time. The prison was strong. But humans were stronger. And Darren was not done yet. Mira stood at the window of her apartment, watching the sky as clouds moved slowly. Her eyes were tired. It had been almost 4 months since Darren left for the Growlin colony. 4 months of silence, no message, no update, nothing, she told herself. Every day that maybe his signal was lost. Maybe the colony had problems with their systems. But doubt had started growing like a shadow in her heart. She held her small necklace, the one Darren gave her before he left. "You'll be back," she whispered. But her voice didn't sound sure anymore. Behind her, the doorbell rang. She opened it to find Leo, holding a brown bag of groceries. "I brought your favorite tea," he said with a soft smile. Mira gave a weak smile back. "Thank you." "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said. "You've been alone too long." They sat in the kitchen, the tea steaming between them. Leo looked at her carefully. "No word from him?" She shook her head. "Nothing. I even tried sending messages to Earth Command. They say the Growlin colony is still having technical delays. That's all." Leo leaned forward. "Mira, I know this is hard, but maybe it's time to face the truth." She looked at him. "What truth?" He spoke gently. "What if something happened? What if he's not coming back?" Mira froze. She didn't answer. The silence felt heavy. Leo reached out and touched her hand. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I just don't want you to suffer alone." She didn't pull her hand away. Back in the cold prison on Station R9, Darren pressed his back to the wall and stared at the loose bolt near the vent. Every day, he had been slowly loosening it using the edge of his food tray. He had made progress, just a little more, and the vent might open. But he wasn't alone anymore. In the cell next to his, a voice had started speaking through the wall. "You from Earth?" The voice asked one night. Darren hesitated. "Yeah, who are you?" "Core. I was captured last year." "I'm from Andex." Darren had heard of Andex, a planet taken over by the Vorn 5 years ago. Its people were smart, good builders, but not fighters. "What did they take you for?" Darren asked. "They said I was a rebel. I only refused to give them my designs." "You build things?" "I did, before the cell." Darren leaned closer to the wall. "I need your help." Over the next few days, Darren and Core whispered through the wall. They shared their plans, their ideas, and hope. Core knew how to move through the maintenance shafts. He had memorized guard patterns. He told Darren where the cameras were weak, where the guards changed shift. "You loosen that bolt," Core said. "I'll handle the control room." We moved together. Darren smiled for the first time in weeks. "Let's do it." Back on Earth, Mira sat on the couch while Leo fixed the broken heater. She watched him silently. He was kind. Always showed up when she needed help. He made her laugh sometimes, something she hadn't done in a while. He looked up and smiled. "Almost done," she nodded. "You're good at this." He gave a small laugh. Not as good as Darren, though. Her smile faded. "No one is like Darren." There was a pause. Then Leo stood up and walked closer. "Mira," he said, "you don't have to keep pretending you're okay. I know you miss him. I know you feel lost." Tears filled her eyes, but she looked away. "I don't know what to feel anymore." Leo stepped even closer. "You don't have to feel guilty. You didn't choose this." She looked up. Their eyes met. He leaned in slowly. Mira didn't move. On Station R9, the plan was ready. Darren waited until the lights dimmed, a signal for night cycle. The guards would be switching patrols soon. He moved to the wall, quietly pulled the vent. Cover off and slipped into the shaft. It was tight and dark. Dust filled his nose. But he kept crawling. Core was already moving on his side. They stayed quiet, following the plan. At the security node, Core disabled the alarm system. Darren reached the control hub and opened the main panel. He used his knowledge from Earth's tech school to reroute the power. The doors to several holding cells opened. Core met him at the escape pod dock. They stole uniforms from 2 knocked out guards and slipped into the shuttle bay. "We did it," Darren whispered. "Let's go," Core replied. They entered the escape pod and launched into the dark, star-filled sky. Back on Earth, Mira stood at the sink, staring out the window again. Leo was gone for the day. Her wrist communicator beeped once. She looked down. 1. New message. From an unknown source. The message read, "Mira, it's me. I'm alive. Coming home." Her heart stopped. She sat down slowly, shaking. Darren was alive. The stolen shuttle flew quietly through deep space. Its small engines left a faint blue trail as it moved between cold stars. Inside, Darren checked the flight systems while Core watched the radar. "We're 5 hours from Station 12, Darren said, looking at the screen. "It's the closest place not controlled by the Vorn." Core nodded. "Once we get there, we can find a real ship and go to Earth." Darren leaned back in his seat. His hands were sore. His eyes were tired, but he was free. For the first time. In months, he could breathe without walls around him. Still, his heart wasn't calm. The message he sent to Earth, to Mira, was short and simple. Just one line. But it carried everything inside him. "Myra, it's me. I'm alive. Coming home." He didn't know if she got it. He didn't know what waited for him on Earth, but he was going to find out. Meanwhile, Mira sat on the edge of her bed, still holding her wrist communicator. The message from Darren had arrived hours ago, but she hadn't replied. Leo had come earlier. She didn't tell him about the message. Now she sat alone. Her heart was racing. She was afraid, not because Darren was alive, but because she had changed while he was gone. "I thought he was dead," she whispered to herself. "I didn't mean for this to happen." But it had. Now she had to face the truth. Back in space, Darren and Core ran into trouble. An alarm beeped loudly in the cockpit. A red dot flashed on the radar. "We've got company," Core said. "One Vorn patrol ship, closing fast." Darren's eyes narrowed. "They tracked us." He quickly changed course, diving the shuttle into a nearby asteroid field. Sharp rocks and spinning stones floated in all directions. The Vorn ship followed. "They're firing!" Core shouted. Laser blasts lit up the dark sky. One shot hit the shuttle's rear wing. The shuttle shook hard. "We've lost one stabilizer." Darren shouted, gripping the controls. "Hold on!" He flew through the rocks, turning fast, ducking between floating debris. The Vorn ship stayed close, but couldn't match his moves. Darren's hands worked fast, pulling levers, flipping switches, rerouting power. His face was calm, focused. "This is what I do," he said under his breath. "I fly." In a bold move, Darren flew straight toward a large asteroid, then pulled up at the last second. The Vorn ship tried to follow, but it was too slow. The Vorn ship hit the rock and exploded. The shockwave pushed the shuttle hard, but Darren managed to steady it. "We're clear," Core said. Breathing hard. Darren gave a small smile. Next stop, Station 12. 3 hours later, the shuttle landed quietly on the edge of Station 12, a trade hub floating near the border of Vorn space. The place was noisy, crowded, and full of different alien species, but it was safe. And Core stepped out wearing cloaks to hide their faces. They walked through the station's market area, past glowing signs and loud vendors. "We need a long-range ship," Darren said. "Something strong, fast, and clean." Core pointed to a quiet hangar at the end of the docking bay. Inside was a medium-sized freighter, old but solid. "She fly?" "Core," said. Darren talked to the owner, traded the stolen shuttle and parts from the escape pod. The deal was quick. No questions asked. Soon they had a new ship and a new path home, on Earth. Mira sat across from Leo in her kitchen. She finally told him the truth. "Darren's alive," she said softly. "He sent a message." Leo froze. "When?" "Yesterday," she said. Leo looked down. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," Myra whispered. "I didn't think this would happen." Leo stood up, angry. "We were building something. I was there when you had no one." "I didn't ask for this," she said quickly. "I didn't plan anything." "But you didn't stop it either," Leo replied, his voice low. She looked away. "You should go." Without another word, Leo walked out, closing the door behind him. 2 days later, Darren's new ship entered Earth space. He sent a signal to Earth Command, explaining everything: the false charges, the prison, the Vorn lies. He included video, logs, security data, and Core's witness statement. The response came fast. "Welcome home. You are cleared to land." Darren looked out the window. Earth was glowing blue below. He was almost there. As the ship landed near New Denver Spaceport, a small crowd gathered. Reporters, officers, and old friends had come. Word had spread that Darren, once declared missing, was alive. He stepped out of the ship in silence, with Core beside him. A military officer approached and saluted. "Darren, Earth thanks you for your courage. We received your evidence. The Vorn tried to delay colonization. Your name is cleared." Darren nodded quietly. He wasn't thinking about praise. He wasn't thinking about awards. He was thinking about Mira. Later that night, Darren stood outside the old apartment building. Lights were on inside. He saw a shadow move past the window. His heart beat fast. He didn't knock yet. He just stood there, wondering what he would find behind that door. He had survived prison, escaped death, fought a Vorn ship, and flown across space. But this moment, this door, felt harder than all of it. He raised his hand and knocked. The door opened slowly. Mira stood there, frozen. Her breath caught in her throat. The man she thought was lost forever was now standing in front of her. Darren. He looked different, thinner, tired. His face was harder now, sharper, but his eyes were still the same, deep, steady, full of thought. She opened her mouth, but no words came. "Hi," Darren said quietly. Myra nodded. "You single quotes read back." "I told you I would come back," he said, trying to smile. But it didn't reach his eyes. She stepped aside to let him in. The apartment looked almost the same. Clean, quiet, but something felt off. There was a strange space between them, invisible, but heavy. Darren walked in slowly, looking around. Still the same couch. Mira gave a small, nervous laugh. "I couldn't get rid of it." He sat down and looked at her. "Why didn't you reply to my message?" She looked down. "I didn't know what to say." He didn't push her. He just nodded. Then he asked, "Was it Leo?" Her eyes widened. She didn't answer at first. "You don't have to lie," Darren said calmly. "I know." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I thought you were gone. Everyone said you were dead or missing. I waited, I really did. But after months, I didn't know what to do. I was alone." "I understand," Darren said after a long pause. His voice was calm but cold. "But you didn't wait long enough." Back at Earth Command, the investigation team had already reviewed Darren's files. Video footage from inside the prison, audio logs of the false charges, and technical readings from the colony site proved one thing. Darren had been set up. The Vorn had planted faulty parts in the equipment he brought. Their goal was simple: delay Earth's expansion and make humans look weak. But the plan failed. Darren escaped, survived, and brought the truth home. Earth officials sent a strong message to the Vorn: "We are not your pawns." They began reviewing all treaties, all agreements. Trust was broken. And now, the people saw Darren not just as a pilot, but as a symbol of human strength. Darren stayed at the apartment for one night. He slept on the couch. The next morning, he packed a small bag and stood at the door. Mira stood nearby, unsure what to say. "I have to go," he said. Earth Command offered me a role on the Interstellar Council. I'll be helping other colonies stay safe, she nodded. Are you coming back? Darren looked at her for a long moment. I don't know. There was no anger in his voice. Just honesty. I still care about you, she said, her voice shaking. I care too, he said gently. But something changed out there, and something changed here. Then he left. Meanwhile, in a dark part of the city, Leo sat in a private room with a communicator. He looked angry, tapping his fingers on the table. He connected a private call to an unknown contact. He's back, Leo said. I didn't expect that. The voice on the other end replied, You told us he would be out of the way. That his tech knowledge was gone. I didn't lie, Leo said. He was supposed to be locked up forever. The voice replied coldly, Well, he's not. And now Earth Command knows we were behind the sabotage. Leo leaned forward. What do we do now? The voice paused. Clean it up. Erase any link to us, including you. Leo's eyes widened. Wait, but the call ended. Back at Earth Command HQ, Darren was debriefed by Captain Rin, a tall woman with gray hair and a sharp voice. You did well, Darren, she said. But there's more going on. We think there was someone on Earth helping the Vorn. Someone gave them your flight schedule and cargo list. Darren narrowed his eyes. Someone close to me. She nodded. We traced some encrypted messages sent from Earth just before you arrived at Growlin. They came from someone in the transport division. Darren clenched his fists. Leo. Captain Rin said nothing, but her expression said everything. I want to handle it, Darren said. Give me the clearance, she studied him. No revenge, Darren, only justice. He nodded. I understand. Darren returned to the city, not to see Mira this time, but to confront Leo. He found him near the transport hub, walking alone. Leo, Darren called. Leo turned, surprised and afraid. We need to talk, Darren said. They stepped into a quiet alley near the back of the building. You worked with the Vorn, Darren said directly. You gave them my mission data. Leo's jaw tightened. You don't have proof. I do, Darren said. Earth Command traced the signals. I also found a copy of the flight list you sent. It had markings from your old workshop. Leo didn't reply. Darren stepped closer. You tried to get rid of me, so you could have Mira, and help the Vorn slow Earth's growth. Why? Leo laughed bitterly. Because you always had everything. The missions, the respect, the girl. I was always second. So you betrayed your own people? Leo's voice rose. I did what I had to. Darren stepped back. Now you'll answer for it. As Leo turned to run, 2 Earth security officers appeared from behind and blocked his way. You're under arrest, one of them said. Darren watched as they took Leo away. Later that evening, Darren stood alone by the city's skyport. The sun was setting, painting the clouds orange and red. A shuttle waited for him. It would take him to the Interstellar Council's ship in orbit. He looked back once, then stepped aboard. Inside, Kor was already seated. All set? Darren nodded. Let's go. As the shuttle lifted off, Earth slowly fell behind them. Mira watched from her window as the ship vanished into the clouds. She whispered, I'm sorry. 3 months passed. Darren now served as a lead advisor in the Interstellar Council. The Council was a group of humans and alien allies working together to keep peace between colonies. After the Vorn incident, Earth had become more careful. Darren's experience gave him a strong voice among the leaders, but even while working across the stars, one part of Darren stayed back on Earth, his memories. Every time he closed his eyes during rest, he saw Mira's face. He heard her voice. Sometimes kind, sometimes quiet, sometimes filled with guilt. He wasn't angry anymore, not truly, but something inside him had changed forever. One morning, Darren was called to the council chamber. A young officer handed him a report. "There's a communication from Earth, sir. A message for you." Darren opened the file. It was short. "Earth Command requests your presence to assist in the Vorn Treaty Review. High Council visit planned in 5 days. Civilian invitations also included." Attached to it was a second message. This one was personal, from Myra. "I heard you're returning soon. I don't know if you want to see me, but I'd like to talk, just once." Darren stared at the message for a long time. Then he closed the file. "Prepare my shuttle," he said. The Earth shuttle landed quietly near the Council Embassy in New Denver. Crowds had gathered to see the leaders return. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Security guards formed a line. Darren stepped out wearing his new dark blue council uniform, marked with Earth's flag and a silver crest. He walked calmly. Past the noise, his face unreadable, Kor followed him, now wearing a badge as an official representative of Andex, his home planet. "You sure you want to meet her?" Kor asked quietly as they walked. "I don't know," Darren replied. "But I think she needs to say something, and maybe I need to hear it." That evening, Darren stood near the river that flowed through the center of the city. The sunset made the water glow gold. He heard footsteps behind him. It was Mira. She wore a simple gray coat and looked thinner than before. Her eyes were tired, but honest. "Hi," she said softly. Darren nodded. "Hi." There was a long silence between them. The sound of water and wind filled the space. "I didn't think you'd reply," she said. "I wasn't sure I would," he replied. She looked down. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry, not just for what happened, but for not trusting you. I should have waited longer." Darren didn't say anything at first. Then he said, "I understand why you didn't." She blinked in surprise. "You do?" "Yes," he said. "I was gone. Everyone thought I was dead. You were afraid, lonely. You made choices in that time. So did I." She stepped closer. "Can we start again? Maybe not now, but later?" Darren looked at her, truly seeing her. She was still Mira, the same girl he had loved. But time had left marks on both of them. "I don't think we're the same people anymore," he said gently. Tears came to her eyes. "So that's it?" "I don't know what the future holds," Darren said. "But right now, my path is out there." He pointed to the stars above. She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Will you ever come back?" "Maybe," he said with a small smile. "But if I do, it won't be as the man who left." The next day, the council session began. Darren stood at the front of the Grand Hall, giving a speech. "The Vorn tried to stop us with lies," he said. "They failed. Because humans, even when broken, find a way to rise." Applause filled the room. Later, Earth Command presented him with a medal. But more important than the medal were the eyes of young officers who looked at him with hope. He had become a symbol, not of revenge, but of strength and calm justice. That night, Darren visited his old apartment one last time. Mira wasn't there. She had left a note on the table. "I won't wait, but I'll always remember. Thank you for being honest." He placed the note in his bag, looked around the room once more, and walked out. Outside, the stars were bright. His ship waited at the dock. Kor waved from the ramp. "You ready?" he asked. Darren looked up, took a deep breath, and smiled. "Yes, let's go." The ship rose into the sky, quiet and steady, and behind it, Earth glowed in silence, a blue world full of stories, love, pain, and choices. Darren didn't know where his journey would take him next, but he was no longer afraid. He was free. The days grew quieter after the council meeting. Darren spent most of his time reviewing the evidence against Leo and the sabotage. Earth Command had locked Leo in a secure facility, and the investigation continued. But Darren wanted more than just proof. He wanted answers. One evening, Darren sat in his office, looking at the data collected from the transport hub. The encrypted messages, the hidden signals, all led back to Leo. But why had Leo betrayed Earth? And what had Mira truly known? A soft knock at the door broke his thoughts. It was Captain Rin. "I have a visitor," she said. "She wants to talk." Mira stepped inside, her face serious but calm. Darren motioned for her to sit. "I need to be honest," Mira began. "When I heard you were alive, I was scared. But more than that, I was lost. Leo was there when I needed someone. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to survive." Darren listened quietly. "Did you know about Leo's connection to the Vorn?" "No," she said quickly. "I had no idea, I swear." Darren nodded slowly. "Thank you for telling me." Days later, the council arranged a meeting. Darren, Captain Rin, and several officers sat around a large table. On the screen, Leo appeared via video link. His face was tired and angry. "You think I betrayed Earth," Leo said, his voice sharp. "But I did what I had to do. The Vorn promised safety if we helped them slow colonization. They said Earth would fall if we moved too fast." Darren's eyes narrowed. "You sold your people to an enemy," Leo sneered. "People like you don't understand what it's like to be ignored, to be second place. You're the hero, the leader." "I was nothing. You chose the wrong path," Darren said calmly. "But now, justice will decide your fate." The council voted to transfer Leo to a high-security prison, where he could no longer harm Earth or its allies. After the meeting, Darren walked outside. The sky was clear and the stars were bright. He thought about what Mira said, about fear and survival. He realized that betrayal was not always born from hate, but sometimes from loneliness and desperation. He sent a message to Myra. "Thank you for your honesty. We will both heal in time." She replied quickly, "I hope so." Meanwhile, Kor prepared to leave Earth. His home planet, Andex, needed help rebuilding after the Vorn occupation. Darren had offered to assist from the council, and Kor was grateful. Before leaving, Kor met Darren at the spaceport. "Your people have great strength." Kor said, "You did not let anger blind you," Darren smiled. "I learned from you. We all have to choose what kind of people we want to be." They shook hands. Back on Earth, Mira started to rebuild her life. She joined a community group helping families affected by the Vorn conflicts. She found comfort in helping others and slowly found peace. One day, she received a message from Darren's office. "Invitation. Attend the Earth Peace Summit. Together we move forward." Mira hesitated, but accepted. At the summit, she saw Darren again, not as a husband or lover, but as a leader and a man who had faced great trials. Their eyes met briefly, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. As the summit ended, Darren stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. He felt a quiet hope for the future. Humans were strong, not just because of their technology or skills, but because they could forgive, learn, and grow. His journey was far from over, but for the first time, Darren believed that the past would not control him. The morning sun shone brightly over New Denver as Darren prepared to leave Earth once again. This time, it was not because of danger or betrayal, but because of purpose. The Interstellar Council had given him command of a deep space exploration vessel, a mission to seek new alliances and protect human colonies from future threats. Darren packed his belongings carefully. His uniform was clean and pressed. In his hand, he held the photo of Mira, folded and worn at the edges. He paused, looking at it for a long moment. He knew some wounds could not heal with time alone, but he also knew that his future lay beyond this city, beyond Earth itself. Mira stood by the window of her new apartment, watching the ship prepare for launch. She had come to see him off, but they did not speak much. Words felt too heavy. "You're ready," she said softly. Darren nodded. "I am. This mission is important. It will help keep Earth safe." She smiled faintly. "I'm proud of you." He stepped closer. "And you?" "I'm learning to be strong," she said. "For myself and for those I care about." They shared a quiet moment, understanding that their paths were different now. The launch was smooth and steady. As the ship rose into the sky, Darren felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He looked back at the blue planet. Shrinking beneath him, "We carry the hope of many," he said to Cor, who stood beside him on the bridge. Cor smiled. "Humans are strong, Darren. They always find a way." Darren nodded. "And we are not alone." Days later, the ship traveled through uncharted space. New stars, new planets, new possibilities stretched before them. The crew worked well together. Humans, Andexians, and other species united in purpose. Darren led with quiet confidence. He listened more than he spoke, but when he did, his words carried weight. One evening, while reviewing star charts, Darren thought about the journey that had brought him here, from a prison cell to the stars. He whispered to himself, "This is just the beginning." Back on Earth, Mira continued her work in the community. She helped rebuild schools, support families, and heal old wounds. She found peace in service and strength in kindness. Sometimes she looked up at the night sky, wondering where Darren was. And sometimes she smiled, knowing he was out there, carrying the human spirit among the stars. Months passed. Darren sent messages home when he could. Short and simple, "All is well. We are making progress." Mira kept each message close. Their lives had changed. Their love had changed, but their connection, the bond of shared history and hope, remained. One day, as the ship approached a distant colony, the communication officer announced an incoming signal. Darren answered. A young voice spoke. "Commander Darren, welcome. We have been waiting for you." It was a new world, a new beginning. Darren smiled. He turned to his crew. "Let's show them who humans are." The stars outside twinkled. The future was wide open, and Darren was ready to lead humanity forward.